Welcome everyone to the March 12th, 2025 council meeting. We'll call the meeting to order at 5:01. Is there any additions to the agenda from administration?
No.
Council? Before we adopt the agenda, we'll just recognize that Councillor Burrows is with us online today, so he'll be on there. If I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
Sure.
Move that council adopts the agenda as presented.
All in favor? Okay, and that's carried. And then we'll move down to 3.1, council meeting minutes, February 26, 2025. Read through those. Have any issues or? Councilor Pekin?
Yeah, I'll move that we adopt those minutes as presented.
Thank you. And we'll call that all in favor. That's carried. And then we have a few minutes before our public hearing, so I think we'll move down to 8.1, letter of support, Whitecourt Sandhills Public Land Use Zone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Whitecourt Horse Club is requesting a letter of support for their application to the Forestry and Parks of Alberta to become the trail master for some of the Whitecourt Sandhill Public Land Zone, where it would strictly be designated as equestrian use only in some areas. They're a registered society, and we have similar trail designations in various areas within the forest zone. So if we're willing to support the equestrian club and get this site-specific zoning for a part of the area, it's an option.
Okay, do you have any questions, Councillor Rohan?
Through the chair to administration, we have talked to them before, but I don't know if they've ever presented a fulsome plan onto what areas will be designated equestrian only. I do know that area is pretty heavily used by off-road vehicles, ATVs, and there's a significant trail system in there for that as well. So I don't know if they've taken that into account, so it's definitely something I'd like to talk to them about if we ever get a chance to.
Yeah. Just if I may, if that's additional information, I don't think it's an unreasonable request at all prior to giving them a letter of support, knowing where it is, just so you have a better understanding of the impacts. I think that's an entirely a reasonable request for them if it's something council wants.
Yeah, because I think we'd hate to give a letter of support and they try and take everything around Whitecourt or something. I know they're not going to, but that would look pretty silly on us. So do we want to make a motion maybe to have that before we come to a decision, or do we want to, what do we do? Councillor Dean?
Through the chair to administration, can we go ahead with these recommended actions pending a letter and a map from the club?
If I may, just for clarity, we could. My concern with doing that is if you provide the motions to support the application and the map they give after the fact is less than ideal, your motion's already out there giving them support. So okay. I would recommend that you wait to see it before you provide the support.
Okay.
Yeah, does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to have administration ask the Whitecourt Horse Club to come to council to have a discussion about what their plan is for that public land use area before we approve a letter, an application.
Okay. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? Thanks. That's carried. We still have a little bit more time, so we'll maybe move down to the electronic signatures, 8.2.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just as part of our overall policy review and update and just modernization where we can, legislation exists in the MGA and the Electronic Transactions Act that gives permission to use electronic signatures and digitize some of these processes. We're respectfully asking that council adopts this policy giving us permission to use electronic signatures. There will be a subsequent policy coming at a later date detailing electronic signatures on financials and checks and that sort of thing. This is more for the day-to-day operations of the county, excluding the financial discussion that needs to happen.
Thank you. Any questions on this policy? Councilor Wilhelm?
I have no questions, so nobody else does. I'll make a motion that Woodlands County Council adopt policy 82.002 electronic signatures as presented.
Okay, any questions on that motion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. We're still ahead of schedule. We might have to move down even further. The next thing is council reports. Do we want to start on any reports before 5:15? I think that's the easiest one maybe to go over. Sure. Okay, we'll start on council reports. Probably nobody's ready for this already, but
I'm ready. I can.
okay, Councilor Wilhelm, you want to go first?
Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to open up the email I have here. So my schedule's been pretty light, other than some community services meetings. I had a Whitecourt Community Services meeting yesterday I was supposed to be at, and I missed because of work, but we had a Woodlands County Community Services meeting since our last meeting, and we wanted to highlight some of the items that were happening there. So the bursary program continues to see an increase in applications for both post-secondary and apprenticeship. Bursaries are currently budgeted for about $3,000 each over 2 years, so we're getting good application through that. FCSS applications for 2025 grant funding are ongoing at the moment and are going to the March 20th Community Services meeting for approval. So we continue to see some diverse applications for that. So it's really awesome to see the buy-in on that. Our volunteer awarded nominations are being accepted until March 21st, 2025. So public and council administration, don't forget to get your application or your submissions in for the volunteer award nominations. We have a large celebration happening on May 3rd, 2025, and we're going to have Danny Hooper's going to come in and be our one of our presenters and the entertainment, so it should be pretty awesome. And our benefits program continues to see rise year over year. So our tax rebate, the $150 flat rate, and the transportation grant up to $360 per person per year, as well as the snow flags has seen a significant increase in applications for it. So we had an application of up to $73,000 in 2024, which I think is up quite a bit from 2023. And we are currently in the process of hiring a Parks and Rec coordinator for the rec department. So awesome to hear about that. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Councilor Wilhelm? Nope. Anything else for Councilor Dean?
Sure. So February 27th, I went to the second of three open houses, SMR open houses at the casino. Was well attended, and I know that's been discussed at council, but for anybody that may be listening, we had upwards of 250 people over the 3 days, so it was good representation, and Capital Power was happy with the resident interest and the feedback that was coming from the residents. On March 4th and 5th, along with our CEO, Mr. Ferris, and members at large to the ECDEV committee, Shelley Hiddle and Patricia McNeil, I attended the SMR Canada conference in Sherwood Park. And it's that industry, it's one of those things, the more you dig into it, the more you understand that there's a lot to know about it. One of the sessions that, or pardon me, I should say, the more you dig into it, the more you understand there's a lot to learn about it. But the session in particular that I found really enlightening was a panel with a representative from Capital Power and from the provincial ministry, affordability and utilities, that of course looks after electricity, and SMRs would generate electricity. So that panel really centered on the permitting and the regulation process that occurs at the federal level and also at the provincial level. And the province is looking at safeguarding the residents of Alberta, but at the same time trying not to have the amount of overlap and the amount of duplication that currently is in the system. So it was reiterated numerous times at that conference that from start to finish, you're looking at about 12 years. And so it's a lengthy process, and they make sure they get things right before they move forward. And then on March 11th, that being yesterday, I attended the Ag Service Board meeting in Fort Assiniboine with our chairman, Councillor Koken. And nothing really of note came out of that meeting, but just, we did have a report, a VSI report that shows that we're on track. In fact, our expenditures are a little under budget, so there's some talk about potentially even adding species to that, to the VSI program. So, and that's everything from me.
Awesome. Questions, Councilor Wilhelm?
I just wanted to add something I forgot to add in my report, and I just wanted to give a huge congratulations out to Martin Long, who's a resident of Woodlands County, but has now been promoted to Minister of Infrastructure in the government of Alberta. So a huge kudos to him. He's making a lot of large steps in the GOA in the last couple of years. So I wanted to do a public appreciation of his big announcements. So just added that in there.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councilor Prestridge, you can do it before, you got 3 minutes?
On the February 27th, I attended the SMR public engagement in Blue Ridge. Had a fairly good turnout. I think we had 51 people show up. I was there for a couple hours, and I really didn't hear any negative comments from anybody. I talked to a lot of people, and like us, they're trying to get some knowledge on what's happening. And then on the 28th, I attended the Ag Services banquet. It was well attended. It was really good. And they had a fairly good magician at the end. Peter did a good job of emceeing. That turned out pretty good. Then after that, I have been under the weather, so I missed some meetings. I just finally coming out of it today. That's it.
Any questions for Councilor Prestridge? See none, we might pause here and we will move back up to 4.1. We have a public hearing that we're going to open up at 5:15, so we can start on that. 5:14 right now. So we will open this up. This is for Bylaw 622/25, Land Use Amendment 2024 LUA 02 SW 24 5612 West the 5th, Rule 235954 and 35572, amending land use district from agriculture 2 A2 district to agriculture rural estates ARE district. So I'm Devin Williams, Woodlands County Councillor for Division 7 for Assiniboine Timu. I'd like the members of council to introduce themselves if we can for the members in public. We can start with Councillor Dean.
Sure. Alan Dean, Councillor for Division 3 West Mountain area.
Jeremy Wilhelm, Whitecourt East.
Peter Kilken, I'm counselor for Goose Lake, Freeman River, which is Division 6.
Bruce Prestage, Counselor for Division 5 Blue Ridge.
And then we have one online.
Yep, I'm John Burrows, counselor for Whitecourt West.
Okay, before we begin, I'd like to note that during a public hearing, we're reminded to respect the views of everyone and allow each individual their time to speak without interruption. Each person wishing to speak has up to 5 minutes to make a presentation to council. Members of the public wishing to speak in relation to the public hearing subject will state their full name, identity, the address of the Woodlands County property, and whether they're speaking for themselves or for another group or person. All discussions of members of council, administration, the public shall be directed through the chair. Council does not debate this matter during the public hearing, and the decision regarding whether to grant the bylaw further readings will be dealt with after the close of the public hearing. Sorry, this is kind of long. Public hearings are to allow input on facts and offer the public an opportunity to provide their feedback. The public hearing is not intended to be a question and answer period. Questions and comments must be limited to items concerning the specific subject of the public hearing, being bylaw 622/25, land use amendment 2024 LUA 02, Southwest 24, 5812 west of the 5th. On the roll number 23594 and 35572, amending land use district from agriculture 2 district to agriculture rural estates district. So I'll call the hearing to order. I declare and call to order the public hearing for bylaw 622/25 land use amendment 2024 LUA 02 Southwest 24 5812 west of 5th, roll 2359954 and 35572, amending land use district from agriculture 2 A2 district to agriculture rural estates district at 515, supposed to be, but it's 517. So I'll ask that Mr. Raposo, Manager Planning Services, provide the purpose and background of the hearing, please.
Thank you, Chair. Okay. So this public hearing is being held pursuant to Section 692(1)(f) of the Municipal Government Act, and as required by Section 33 of Woodlands County Land Use Bylaw 49017. In reference to Section 33 of County Land Use Bylaw, Council may consider a land use amendment. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide an opportunity for the members of public who may be affected by the proposal to voice any comments or concerns they may have prior to the council considering the bylaw amendment for second and third reading. So background, bylaw 62225, an application to amend land use for part Southwest 24 5812 west of the 5th Meridian, roll numbers 235954 and 35572, amending land use districts A2 district to ARE district, was received on December 17th, 2024, and was later amended on January 29th, 2025. The applicants are seeking to rezone the subject parcel for the purposes of subdividing an approximate 16 to 18 acre parcel from the southern 69.61 acre parcel to quarter section, being roll number 235954 as seen in the attached land use amendment application. The land use amendment bylaw 62225 was first brought before council for first reading and to establish a public hearing date on February 12th, 2025. The bylaw passed first reading and a public hearing was scheduled for today, March 12th, 2025 at 5:15 p.m. Council also made a motion to require the applicant to provide sufficient evidence from a surveyor that there is a solution for that there is a location for a build site on the proposed future lot and that is located a minimum of 30 meters from a slope that is 30% grade or more and has sufficient area to build a house and septic system. And in addition to that, provide a conceptual plan of the subject parcel and how it can be subdivided to future residential sites. The applicant is currently gathering this information and is seeking to provide this information to council at a later date. I do want to note here that I did receive a call from the applicant's surveyor. They have got this information and they were supposed to send it this afternoon. I have not received that information yet, so I haven't been able to review it to provide it today. The public hearing was advertised for 2 consecutive weeks in the Whitecourt newspapers. Letters were sent to all adjacent landowners advising them of the public hearing and the opportunity to provide comments on the land use amendment. Government agencies, utility companies, and Woodlands County Infrastructure Departments were also notified. Comments received to date are attached under Appendix A. All comments and letters received from the referrals express no major concerns in principle with the proposal. No letters or comments were received from the public prior to this public hearing. I'll now go through some of the comments that I received from external agencies and our infrastructure department. I'll start with our infrastructure department, and this one is not in your package because I received it after the package was published. From Mr. Paul Macarag, Manager of Infrastructure, no issues with the proposed. Proponent to ensure any new future approach access to be compliant with Woodlands County design guidelines and construction standards at time of subdivision and development. From Alberta Forestry and Parks, from Bruce Van Oos, Alberta Forestry and Parks lands delivery requests that protection of the identified creeks be provided to ensure that they stay intact and functional, as well that there are some noted steep slopes on the quarter section that may have some inherent stability issues if disturbed. Geotechnical assessment for these steeper areas is recommended prior to development approval. From Fortis, Alberta. Fortis, Alberta has no concerns with this rezoning. From Apex Land Services, please be advised that the attached request is located outside of Apex Utilities franchise area. That's all I've received to date. That concludes my remarks. I would like to note that one of the applicants here is here in attendance today as well.
Thank you. So now no decision will be made today. I'll just remind everybody of that, but we'll allow for council questions. Does anyone have any questions on this? Councilor Dean?
Yeah, through the chair, to administration, I guess, and to Mrs. Handspiker. Why is it a joint application?
It's a joint application because historically, so our regulations, the way they're written, our subdivision regulations are based on the quarter section. So in the past, council's opinion on rezonings that have been brought forward have been, we generally supported quarter section rezonings rather than individual lots, so they're consistent with our regulations, so we can actually kind of impose some of the regulations we have in the land use bylaw. It gets tricky when you rezone an individual parcel, because then you kind of have to try and figure out, because it's not explicitly written in the bylaw for a parcel or regulations for the quarter section, then it's up to the DO to kind of determine how those regulations should apply to a lot, and there's a lot of gray area. So I hope that helps.
So combined, they make a quarter section?
Yeah, there is one parcel on this quarter section that's not under application. It's approximately 10 acres. It's noted under the Schedule A of the bylaw.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions from council? Seeing none, so now will be public feedback, so this will be in favor first. So if anyone would like to speak in favor of, they just have to introduce themselves. If you'd like to speak.
I'm in favor of, but that's
Okay, no comments though, or any, okay, thank you. And then if there was anyone that is opposed, would be next. So is there anyone opposed of this that wants to speak from the public? No? Okay, and then one more chance for council to ask any other questions if anything popped up.
Just a point of clarity, Mr. Chair. There are people online beyond Councillor Burrows. Do we need to specifically ask for them? Just to go to that third wall online, we should also acknowledge if they need to speak, because they may not realize that it's an opportunity.
Okay, yeah, if anyone's online and would like to speak, they can do that. I don't see him.
I just, whoever NG is, so it's just that.
That's Nikki.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Nikita, my apologies, then, sorry.
Okay, so no questions from council? Okay, so we're not gonna make any decisions, so it'll be recessed, so I now declare the public hearing for land use amendment bylaw 62225 recessed until April 9th, 2025 at 5:45 PM at the Woodlands County Administration Office, number 1 Woodlands Lane Council Chambers, to receive information from the applicant on survey of parcel and conceptual plan. So we don't need a motion on that. I asked that before the meeting. So we'll just move back to council reports now. Oh, well, no, well, sorry, we're not gonna do that. We have 10 minutes before, sorry, just looking like time. 5:35, we have about 10 minutes, so we will go back to the council reports and then we can come back unless the delegations are ready. Okay, perfect, let's do that first then. Okay, so we'll go to 6.2. delegation from the Town of Whitecourt Community Services Report. Before we get started, I think we could introduce you guys and then we'll introduce us.
I was actually going to do that.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, no.
Good evening, Reeve and Council. Your delegation today is from the Town of Whitecourt, their community services. You'll have Chelsea Grande, the Director of Community Services, Angie Mitchell, she is the Manager of Community Services, and Kelly Sadoway, she is the Manager of Recreation. They're going to be going over the report that was in your package and answering any questions for you this evening.
Awesome, thank you. I think we could go around the room. You probably have been here before, but we could start with Joan.
Joan Slutwick, Director of Community Services.
Alan Dean, Councillor for Division 3.
Jeremy Wilhelm, Whitecourt East.
Peter Kilton, Councillor for Division 6, Goose Lake, Freeman River.
Devin Williams, Councillor for Division 7, Fortis and Timu.
Bruce Prestidge, Councillor for Blue Ridge.
And then we have one online.
And I'm John Burrows, Councillor for Whitecourt West.
Okay. Oh,
Sure. Matt Ferris, the CAO.
perfect. Thank you. So, yeah, whenever you guys are ready.
Okay. To start off, we'd just like to thank Council for providing the opportunity for us to present our report. It does go to the Community Services Advisory Board, which Councillor Willem is a member of, but it's nice to be able to share it with all of Council and give Council the opportunity to ask questions. So it has been another busy year for the department, with continuing to focus on getting the Alan and Jean Miller Center membership back to pre-pandemic levels, and with the adjustment and expansion of programs and services being offered to meet the changing needs and dynamics of the community for both recreation, arts and culture, and family community support services, including the addition of new seniors programming to assist seniors with aging in place. The annual report is just a snapshot of some of the highlights within the department. The department does much more than what is reflected in the report. Also, each year, the board and management meet to review level of service and priorities, and the 2026 session will be held on April 12th. I just wanted to point out that this year we added a new section to the report, if you've looked at the report in the past. And this is under each manager, we've added a section just to reflect some of the grants, contracts, and sponsorship that the department has secured, as this is something that is unique to our community and allows for the needs of the community to be met while keeping programming and facilities accessible while maintaining a minimal increase with the municipal contributions. I just wanted to point out, if you look at page 20 of the report, just for FCSS, you'll see under the manager there, there's about $1 million of services that residents have access to that are fully funded from other sources other than the municipality. And these have allowed us to do quite a bit. And so this is something that's quite unique. Our residents are able to access services, $1 million of extra services that isn't coming from municipal funding, and that's just from having contracts, grants, and donations. Usually I would hand it over to Randy Feist, who's our manager of facilities, but he was unable to make it tonight. And so I'm going to point out two highlights from his area. And the one being that the replacement of the McLeod roof was a highlight in 2024. We were able to secure an energy grant through MCCAC to be able to do that. It was in the life cycle plan to be replaced, but the cost came in higher. We were able to do two things with it: replace it, but also make it more energy efficient, with substantial funding covered for that replacement. And with it, users have indicated that it's much warmer in the arena, and we've also taken temperature measurements. So it not only we were able to get something done that needed to be done, but also it's helping with operations, because we will be reducing our cost with utilities, as well as the users are finding it much more enjoyable in there. The other item is the boiler changeout at the Alan and Jean Miller Center. Again, we were able to secure the same grant, and so there needs to be the main boiler needs to be changed out at the Alan and Jean Miller Center, and this grant has allowed that to occur. It was in our life cycle plan as well, so it helps with the cost of that. And with it, they're just in the engineering stage with that, so that the actual changeout won't happen until 2025. But those are two big highlights, and then the third one is we put in a real life system at the LNG Miller Center. At JDA Place under the same grant, which has which reduces. We can use cold water for flooding, so it reduces the energy again with operations there, being able to use the cold ice, and users have indicated that the ice quality is better with that as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Angie to go through a couple highlights in her section of Family Community Support Services.
So within Family Community Support Services, we had our social prescribing grant funded through Healthy Alberta Aging and United Way. We've just been operating for 1 year in December with 61 referrals to the program. We also received a new grant to fund the 2025 and 26 years for home supports funding. It is also through the same funder. And so you'll probably see advertising coming up as we're promoting that program. Within our Family of Violence initiative, we were successful in obtaining 2 grants in addition to our regular grant funding. The Community Justice Grant provided the opportunity to offer new hope to youth who are at risk of facing the justice system. And the National Action Plan for Gender-Based Violence Grant provided the opportunity to expand programming, including the gala that we hosted in November, as well as hire a family violence prevention worker. Also with the Family Violence Initiative, we received the Minister's Awards of Municipal and Library Excellence Award in the Enhancing Community Safety category, and this was presented to the stakeholders group at the gala by council. The food bank saw a 27% increase in clients accessing the food bank for fills compared to 2023. Unfortunately, monetary donations were down just under $20,000 compared to 2023. In youth development, our Doors Open program continues to grow, and the number of youth attending has doubled compared to 2023. And I think that's what I don't think that.
Next will be Kelly, Manager of Recreation, Arts and Culture.
Yeah, so thanks for most of mine. So we'll start with LNG Miller Center stuff. So complimentary fitness classes, so those are the classes that are free with membership or with a daily admission. In 2023, we had 4,688 attendees, and in 2024, we had 6,307 attendees, so a big increase there, which is great to see. We've also seen an increase in sport organizations using us as a place to get their dryland training for their athletes, so that's really cool. So a lot more young people are coming through our space and getting to know it and getting more comfortable there, so hopefully they'll keep doing that. So in 2023 we offered 27 dryland sessions for sport organizations, and in 2024 we offered 49, which is pretty cool. We continue to see a nice steady increase in daily admission and membership revenue, which is post-pandemic, we're getting close to where we were before, which is really nice to see. Lots of people coming through. And then just on a community level, just our free community events like Party in the Park and Community Fun Night and Canada Day and Night at the North Pole, Family Day, all those fun things. We are, even though it was really cold at Family Day this year, people still showed up, so that was really cool to use the ice slide down at the park. So it's really nice to see that. Summer camps, homeschool programming, all of them have seen a nice, solid showing, lots of people showing up and being part of the programs, which is really great to see. And as my last little point, birthday parties. So we host a lot of birthday parties. In 2024, we hosted 250 birthday parties at the LNG Miller Center. This is pretty cool.
That's
So, yeah.
busy.
Yeah, it was busy.
So,
like busy.
So just before we close up, one of the trends that we are seeing is that our free programming in 2024 was accessed more than it has in the past, whether it be from youth, seniors, to our community events, to fitness classes, the free programming, Doors Open, all of them have seen large increases in free programming. So then we'll just turn it back over to council for questions.
Awesome, thank you. That's quite a jump in the food bank numbers. That really stood out. That's substantial for 1 year. Do you have any questions, Councillor Kukan?
Yeah, I went extensively through this report, and first of all, I'd like to say thank you for the work you guys do. This is probably the most valuable work that municipalities can get involved in, and part of that is, part of the reason that I believe in social economic development. What was interesting for me was the data that you collected here. And what it should be telling us as municipalities, it should be telling us that there's problems, that we have to identify, well, this is the signal, this is the symptom of a bigger issue. And I think the beauty of this is that because you do what you do in your communities and we do what we do in our communities, that we are seeing the value of that human connection and that empathy that has to go with the development of these programs. And what I liked about it was that it shows us the negative side, that the food bank is being used more. But it also shows us the positive side of what you're doing, which is engaging our youth in our community and social events so that they actually become grounded here. And, you know, this is a part of what we really need to start to do as municipal governments, is we need to start working together on not just these things, but on our whole regional ideals. What is it that we want it to look like? And you guys are starting to provide the groundwork for that, and I really, truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Councilor Will?
I just wanted to say thank you as well. I sit on the board, obviously, when I can't actually show up for the meetings, but I appreciate to get to work with that board. It's really awesome. I get to see these numbers much more regularly than everybody else, so get to see the impact that your group does for our area, and it is awesome, and I appreciate being part of it.
Councilor Dean?
Yeah, and I also want to thank you guys for the opportunity to read through that report. It covers a lot of ground. And I'm looking for the one section that I found kind of comical, but I can't find where it is. But the next time you guys use drones to chase the geese away off the pond, can you let me know? Because I'd like to come and watch that.
That's going to be chaos. Oh, we got one more question from council.
Yeah, this is just an observation I'm making in the different circles that I get to work in, have the opportunity to work in, is that we had a presentation the other day at the Barhead FCSS, and we are really starting to find that some of the contractors, the developers, are starting to understand the space that they have to work in and what the need is through the needs assessment, which all of you obviously were involved in. And I found it very interesting that the push is coming from their side a little bit more now, rather than from our side. And that's where we want to be. So, you know, how long has it taken, you know, this is my question to you, how long has it taken for us to get that traction? You know, it's taken a while, I would suggest, to have developers actually say, you know what, we need to do it this way. It's not about having the granite slab, but it's having something that's functional and long-term and affordable.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Good. Get a motion to see this as information. Councilor Wilhelm?
I'll motion the council receives a presentation from the Town of Whitecourt Community Services for information.
Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Thank you all very much for coming. That report was fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the work you do. We have another delegation. Bert, is everybody here that's got to be here?
I think I hear you.
Okay, perfect.
We're all you need.
So we can move to 6.3. You guys are probably here for the. I'll turn it over to Bert first.
Thank you so much. Reading Council, my pleasure to be here again tonight and to introduce you to fabulous ladies that I get to work with on a regular basis. We have with us Rhonda Huff, who's my counterpart in economic development with the Town of Whitecourt, and who I'm proud to say is also currently sitting as a elected member of our EDA Provincial Board. So congratulations, Rhonda, and thank you for being here. And we also have, of course, RN Kristen Belke, who is the chair of the HPARC committee, and who's also been appointed by council as part of our economic development committee. So, ladies, please go ahead.
Thank you, Bert.
Just if we could, before we get started, maybe we'll go around the room and just introduce everybody here.
Sure.
We'll start with Joan.
Joan Slutwig, Director of Community Services.
Hi, neighbors.
Jeremy Wilhelm, Whitecourt East.
Dirk Hilken, Freeman River Goose Lake, Division 6.
Devin Williams, Fortis and Blaine Timu.
Bruce Prestige, Village.
Matthew Ferris, CEO.
Tracy Mendez, Executive Assistant.
And then we just have one counselor on the line. Probably not.
John Burrows, Whitecourt West. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Now go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
So first of all, thanks to council for allowing us to come here and present. This committee is a committee that only meets 4 times throughout the year, but it's really based on the attraction and retention of health professionals in all sectors, all across the board. So we'll talk a little bit about our committee. It's made up of a town councillor as well as, I believe, Dave Cush from Woodlands sits on this one. We've got an Alberta Health representative, a nurse, 2 public members, and then both clinic managers, a physician, and then support through our economic development team. And our priorities for this committee is really to look at support of integrating families into the community. So doctors, nurses, pharmacists, any type of health professional that is coming into the community. We look at making sure we provide that welcoming environment. They have a package, they know what's in the communities. And they're available we're available to tour them, go through some of the quality of life that's available in our community. We find sometimes having those professionals in our area is hard when they're used to the city environment, so we want to kind of show them what's here, get them to fall in love with it so they stay here, bring their families here, and that type of thing. So you'll see some of our priorities on there as well. We also promote healthcare to students. There's a number of different activities that we do to highlight that rural education to students. And then working with families, making sure we're doing that check-in process with families if there is challenges. A lot of time they're coming from, all over. They're not used to winters. There's different things challenges that we meet with them. So we help them walk through that process as well. And then Kristen's our chair, so I'll turn over to her. She'll talk about some of the good stuff that we have done. This committee works really hard on a very small budget, so we have a $5,000 budget, but we get a lot of accomplishment within that amount. So
Rhonda's really, really good at her job. She has it in her calendar already to apply for the next grant through RPAC. So she's like, I got it ready, and just when that alarm goes, she sends it out. So we're really thankful for your commitment to support that and for Whitecourt to do that. In 2024, what we've completed, we sent out welcome packages. Like she said, to anybody coming to the community, we choose the package according to who it is. So if it's nursing students or pharmacy or something like that, they'll get one sort of package. If it's a physician and their family coming, they get a different package. Just so we kind of tailor that so people are getting what they need. So we welcome that. They get LNG Miller passes. They get, depending on if it's like somebody sometimes comes for like a day, just a random pop in for like a resident or something like that, and they'll get like a meal at Mountain, just to kind of say welcome to the community, get them to stay a smidge bit longer than they necessarily need to. One of our members at large, what they do is they check in with families, so say, how are you guys doing? Are you settling in? Do you need any support? Anything like that. So we have somebody that does that. We have artwork going into the hospital. It's not up yet, but we've purchased all the frames. So Derek has contacted the schools. So we'll be getting art from some of the students. So it's going to be between high school students. I think we have 2 separate kind of initiatives. So we'll have like a grade 2 students will do an art project, and we'll put that up. And then we'll as well have like high school students will do some art and help that out possibly for sale. They're just kind of working out logistics, but just kind of trying to integrate people in the community into the healthcare services. Rural Health Week, what we do is we deliver baskets to healthcare professionals. Sorry, I get a little nervous, and I know all of you except you guys. So I don't know why I'm nervous. We do baskets. So what Rhonda does is she gets from I think it's IGA. We get these like
a split, a variety of things.
Yeah. So it's like food, and they give it to like the ambulance, the different clinics, the dentists, the chiropractors, everything like that, the different departments within the hospital. And so everybody's pretty excited to be getting a basket. Rhonda says it's her favorite time of the week, like time of the year, because she feels like Santa.
Everyone's so happy.
We do an annual barbecue. So, like I said, lots of the ways that you keep people is integrating them into the community. RPAP. Does everybody know RPAP? Health professionals.
Action,
Rural health professionals, something. They usually work mostly with physicians, but they do kind of integrate with everybody. But they identified that that's the way you keep people. They've done this big study, and integrating family into community is what works. And so that's what we kind of do at this barbecue. Everybody's families are invited, everyone from, like I said, dentists, chiros, the the optometrists, the hearing people, all of them are all invited. Last year, we saved a lot of money because OJ's has to volunteer once a year, and so they volunteered their food and had their food truck and paid for it.
Nice.
So that was really, really well received. We're hoping to get them back this year. Rhonda has it on her schedule to contact them again, so we're really excited about that. And we are hosting, beginning of May, the Let's Go Rural event at the high school. So we've integrated it with some of us at the hospital are going to be hosting different platforms, and they've hand-chosen the people at the school who know the students. Good Lord, the word's escaping me. Anyways, career planner, I don't know, has talked to some of the students. So they're handpicking 40 people to come and spend the day with us. And RPAP is paying for the majority of it and organizing the majority of it. So we're kind of banking on with them, and we're really excited. I think the students are really excited. So they've said that oftentimes if you can get rural students to be encouraged to do health professional occupations, then they will return back to rural. So we're not just going at it one route, we're trying to kind of get it in a multidisciplinary, multi-route way. Because if you only attack a problem in one direction, then it won't be so as effective. Anyways, feedback identified. We've had really positive feedback from med students, residents, nursing students, even pharmacy students coming through town. They feel really encouraged. They love being called by the town and saying, hey, would you like a tour? And they're like, yes, I would. So they've been really happy with that. We have, how many doctors? We have 2 doctors in our...
So this year, we've toured 3, well, I think we toured about 4. 3 of those have chosen to stay in the community, so we've attracted 3, 2 nurses, I believe, and there's a number of pharmacies, pharmacists, dentists, medical students, and when Kristen was talking a little bit about rural, there was a RPAP survey, which is, I'll tell you, it's Rural Health Professionals Action Plan, so it's a group that works with us. They did a survey, and this is where we kind of build some of our projects from, is there was 30% or 66% of those completing their professional degree had experience in rural, and because they had experience in rural, 81% of them chose to come back to rural. So we know if they're in the rural area and they're touring and they like those smaller communities, they will come back to the communities. So we kind of base a lot of our projects on those surveys, what we're getting from feedback from health professionals. And yeah, we've been quite successful with following that route, so.
She words it so much better. One issue that we have in our community that is a challenge that we really deal with is obviously our hospital is very old. We toured Minister LaGrange, as well as Christine Sewell. She was the deputy, they had it on here.
Minister,
yeah. We toured both of those people separately. We had actually like really fantastic tour with them. They took their time, they asked lots of questions, so we were really happy about that. We've been promised a hospital since 2007, something of the sort. The issue with the hospital is that you're not going to attract new services with an old building. We have no space for a CT, we can't expand our OR, so those are obviously really big issues that we're dealing with, but we do, in the last year, I think, we did attract a surgeon. So he is doing surgeries in our community. He is doing endoscopy as well. So we've really expanded that service in the limited space that we've got. One really added bonus that we do have at our site, despite our crazy old building, is that our staff are actually very fantastic. We are really encouraged to do a lot of preceptoring and mentoring of each other, and there's a really good working group. One thing that just recently, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but that's okay. One thing that we're actually have just recently kind of started doing is we met at Growing the North. Thank you, Bert, for sending me. And we met with the Dean of Nursing at the Polytechnic there. And so I was in contact with her actually today. And I was saying, hey, what are you doing to educate nurses at your school about rural, because they don't get taught anything, and GP is not rural, honestly. So she had a little spiel, and then she came and talked to me after for about an hour, and we had a really great conversation. I said, what do we have to do to get your students here in Whitecourt? Because I said, if students come here to Whitecourt, have a fantastic experience, they might come back to Whitecourt, or they might go to another rural facility. Either way, this is an opportunity that we think would be really, really great. So one barrier to that was housing, because they would have to pay for housing wherever they currently live and someplace for them to stay here. So we're exploring ideas either through RPAP or, am I speaking out of turn? No? Okay. I'm like, am I going too far? Or Tom Picard had an idea about, what's the word I'm looking for? When you house like the hockey kids. Ability nursing students. So that was a really good idea. We were talking with Christine and we're talking with HS to see kind of what we can do to kind of get some more students here. Anyways, this committee isn't just hospital focused, we are community focused. So like I said, we include psychiatrists, psychologists, dentists, and everybody. So we're not just focusing on one. We had 133 people at our barbecue. We welcomed 5 new doctors and 3 nurses to the community in the whole term of our, that was just in 2024.
This committee started February of 2023, so it's just a new committee.
Yeah, 2 years in. We have 3 physicians in our doctor loan program, which is kind of run through the boutique.
Friends of Whitecourt Society.
Tit for tat. Just joking. And I think that's it. Rhonda, did you have anything to add?
No, just to talk a little bit, just to be clear. So this is a attraction and retention committee. It's not a recruitment committee, but what this does for us, it allows us to advocate for those recruitment and additional services. There is definitely another health partnership team. Mayor Pickard sits on, as well as Reeve Cush, and they are working with Alberta Health Services ministers doing that advocating piece. But the good thing about this committee is ministers, and when you have those issues, they want to hear from the boots on the ground. They want to hear from the nurses, the doctors, the community, the public members, not always the municipality, what they think they need. So when they come in and meet with us, they hear that. They hear the challenges directly from doctors, nurses, pharmacists, things like that, and what the community needs from those boots on the ground. So it is a great stepping stone to be able to support the increase of health services that really the communities both need in this region. And we had, like we said, we had a really great meeting with that team before, and it's a great for us to be able to advocate for that.
And this is just news. The RN collective agreement that the government just put out set aside $22 million annually for rural recruitment and retention. So that's for our union to spend and decide what they spend money on. But obviously the government is seeing that this is a big issue that we need to attend to, and they're willing to spend $22 million annually for it. So.
Thank you. You guys get a lot done for $5,000.
I know, you do a really good job.
Question from Councilor Cooper?
Yeah, I went through this report too, and what I find really interesting is the incredible amount of work that gets done by the people that are involved in this, and it's so obvious to me that if we're asking the GOA to do something for us, we're not going to get the bang for our buck, is what we do here, because there's so many people that do it because they're passionate about it. From a municipal perspective, I would really like to know, how do we better advocate for doing this? Because it's an integral part of our whole society and our wellness here. That's one thing, is that because it's not just money, obviously, because you guys are doing this on a very small donation on our part. fundamentally, most municipalities are interested in infrastructure because that's what kind of we've done. But I think we need to be better at advocating for all of these things. And what I'm seeing here is that this is very unique to Whitecourt and the Woodlands County around here. I am also listening in on the conversations that are happening in Swan Hills, and they're unique as well because they have a completely different set of dynamics. The problem that I see is that government will come and see this, but they will unilaterally put the same stamp on everybody, even though their needs are different. So as municipalities, we need to be able to advocate and say, you know what? It's great that you're putting 22 million in here, but don't paint us all with the same brush, because you will need something more than what this group will need. So I want to know how do we better help you do that? It's a tough question.
Yeah, it is. I'm like we have our little, we have our 5-year plan on, that's the last sheet. Lots of it is continuing doing what we're doing. Continue to support new families and integrating them into community.
I think too, and I think there's a lot of ways to advocate, but I think supporting groups like this, so when you are in front of those ministers and in front of the decision makers, they're hearing from those people, boots on the ground. They like solutions, so this team gets together and they provide the solutions back. So we're a lot of times we get questions, well, how do we do this, how do we do that? But there's never any solutions. We're at the table with a solution. Okay, this is the challenge, here's our solution to fix that challenge. Then we put it back on them. So there's a lot of those types of meetings and advocacy going on right now. In regards to infrastructure and services, of course, that's out of this community's league, so I couldn't really speak to that, but I know there is a whole nother team, which also includes Woodlands and Whitecourt, that's working on that. And I think if we just continue doing that and keeping in front of them and keeping these committees strong, it'll definitely benefit that end goal for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the council?
I'll make a motion that council receive the presentation from the Health Professionals Attraction and Retention Committee for information.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. You guys do a lot of work on that, so we appreciate it. Now, we'll continue down to council reports and questions. Kind of jumping all over the place, but I think we covered everything else. Councilor Kluken, if we can continue on with you.
Yeah, after our council meeting on the 26th, I did attend the SMR engagement at Eagle River. Found it very interesting. Had some interesting conversations with the folks that were there. And what was really good about it was that most of those, they wanted to know that it was a knowledge gathering for them. There was not really any sense of opposition. They just want to know what does this look like, which was really good. Then on Thursday, I attended the Bylaw District Social Housing, our regular board meeting. We actually got into the discussion of the issue of the lack of a level 3 housing and some of the needs assessment things. And, until government understands that there has to be a joint venture that includes home care in level 3 housing, it's impossible for us to even entertain the idea of doing anything there. So that was it was a really good session because we're starting to see some movement in government that they're identifying that this is something that's going to have to be addressed. Then we had on the 28th, I had an interview with the folks, the consultants that are putting on a social impact lab, which is, you're probably not aware of as a council here, but it's part of the mandate that we have to have people understand the connection between social economics and the capital model and how they can either negatively or positively affect each other, and that it's so important for us as municipal leaders to understand that times are changing. We have to start to address things differently because the way that we've been addressing things in economic development haven't been working. They haven't been, and we can see by the report that was given by the delegation today, community services, that we're consistently seeing an increase of the demand at that social level. And we are not really asking the question as why is that happening? And this is what we're trying to accomplish here, so that we can have municipal leaders regionally understand that it can't just be Woodlands County that is addressing these issues here, that this is a bigger problem, and that we have to have the government of Alberta understand that they've really abandoned that piece of it, especially in rural Alberta. So that interview was really good. It was only supposed to be an hour, ended up being 2.5. Then we had our Ag Service Board supper, and I think Councillor Dean and Councillor Prestridge probably covered that as well. It was well attended. We had, for the first time, had a mentalist, isn't that what they called him, a mentalist?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't draw on his suit this time, so they didn't have anything to laugh at. So
he was happy when he left.
So, but it was really well attended, and I got a lot of good feedback from the fact that we had changed it up to that. And people really enjoyed the fact that they couldn't understand how the guy did this stuff. So that was good. Then on the 7th, I had a FCSS Building Committee meeting, and the reason that we had that was because the current FCSS in Barrhead no longer can operate out of the small facility that they have. There's a number of things that are going on in that community right now that would probably allow us to expand that facility. There's grants available, and we've had really good management there that will allow us to increase the service that is really needed there, both in youth programming and in the food bank and so on and so forth. I'm really proud to say that we've got a real good presence in Fort Assiniboine now through the initiative that Woodlands, this board took, and it's increasing. The use of that service is increasing, so that's really good. Then on the 11th, that would have been yesterday, we had our Ag Service Board meeting, and the one thing that is coming out of that is that is the fact that we've been trying to figure out how we get a weigh scale for business into that area to make it better for farmers and people in that area that do trade in a way. And quite frankly, Canfor reps stepped up. They've got that laydown yard there. They have a scale there. There's some issues, but I think they're more than open to helping us work those issues out. And so I think we're going to see that service being provided at a very, very minimal cost. And so we'll see where that goes. I think our Matthew, our CAO, is involved in some of the logistics of that. And so I'm happy that that's happening. That was yesterday. Then this morning I spent 6 hours with a marketing specialist and a website developer trying to understand how we best approach regional economic development and what we have to do to have a presence that's of any value. And it was a really interesting exercise. It showed me a lot about what I didn't know and a lot about what I shouldn't need to know. It is so important to have those professionals develop those things for us rather than doing it by committee, because that's kind of how we've been operating. And the problem with that is that the expertise that's required to actually make it successful is not in that committee, because that's not our mandate. So that was good, and that allows me now to move the conversation at the Rita table level to say this is what has to be done, because if we're not going to do that, then there's no value to it. I'm also reporting that to the ECDev board tomorrow, I believe it is. There's a meeting, and there is one tomorrow because it was questionable. Yeah, and the reason for that is because whether we like it or not, Woodlands has been a leader here. And the reason we're a leader is because we have an asset that a lot of the other municipalities don't have. And if we want to go down the path of regional development that he is asking us to do, we have to follow that path. And so it's up to us to take the advice that we've been given from both the consulting professionals and the EDO and our regional economic development specialists and say, this is the path we have to take, and this is what's going to cost. And if we're not willing to spend the money, then we shouldn't go down that path. So, and I think that pretty much covers my report.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions for Councilor? Okay, Councilor Burrows?
Yep. Checking my mic's on. My mic is on. Yay, look at that. February 26th, went to the SMR open house. Again, thought it was good. I heard mostly positive feedback. I during the council meeting, I asked the question about medical isotopes and some of the production around nuclear medicine if we did get a reactor in Western Canada. And apparently that can be designed into the reactor, so depending on how they want to run it, but it might be something for people to consider on the plus minus scale when they're looking at something like that. So excellent feedback from the event overall, though. That's it for my Woodlands events that I attended. Other than the issue I've been dealing with on the Gibson Subdivision Road, I've had a lot of phone calls and concerned people about the amount of slurry generated on that road, and I think our CAO has a report he might talk about later on, but I thank him for generating that. I have been out, just because I haven't been working for Woodlands doesn't mean I'm not doing anything. I'm 4th to the 6th, I was at AB Muni's Municipal Leaders Convention, and the 10th to the 13th, I'm actually out in Saskatchewan right now at a Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities. Also, since this is kind of relevant to Woodlands County, the just today, Rural Municipalities of Alberta dropped a press release on unpaid oil and gas, and it has been far too long that unpaid oil and gas is an issue in this province. So hopefully we will get some traction on this finally, but it is a pretty it's a pretty shocking report, and I think the part that people are not understanding that this isn't just a rural issue, it affects all Albertans. On the surface lease side, I believe they're up to $31 million that the government of Alberta is paying out in surface leases right now to landowners for oil and gas companies that are not paying their surface leases either. So there's multiple components to this unpaid oil and gas tax issue that's coming across the province. That is it for me.
Thank you, Councilor Burrows. You've got one question, Councilor Cook can ask for you.
Yeah, John, it's just part of the conversations we've had in the past is how does the dollars that are coming out of the tax coffers of the GOA in the Orphan Well program, how is that calculated into this whole debacle? Or is it?
It isn't. The Orphan Well is already oversubscribed. It's And I think that might be part of the issue why they're not moving quickly on some of this. I think they're afraid they're going to bankrupt a bunch of companies, and then the Orphan Well Association is going to have to take on a ton of environmental liability, and then that's also going to transfer over to the Alberta taxpayer. It is not a simple issue, and it's interesting because I'm out here in Saskatchewan, and guess what? They're on their docket was unpaid oil and gas taxes. So, and again, this isn't an anti-oil and gas rant. This is a few players that are not. These are bad actors in the industry, and this is what we're up against. So, no, the only components that we've really focused on that flush down to or flesh out in the argument is so. When we as rural municipalities can't collect the taxation, roughly, and I use this number roughly, a third of the taxes that we collect from oil and gas go to the province for provincial education requisition. So the province then, if we write off that amount, they will refund it. So if you write off, and I think we're up around 300 million right now, so you write off $300 million of oil and gas tax, there's $100 million that is not going into the coffers at the province for education. Now, that doesn't mean education is not getting the $100 million. It's just coming out of somewhere else. Same as the Surface Rights Board. If you go back to 2007, I think they were paying out about 300,000, 400,000 annually, and sometimes it was next to nothing. Now it is routinely $20-30 million annually.
You got a follow-up here.
Yeah, just a follow-up question to the first question. The reason I asked it was because I think there's a lack of understanding from the urbans of what that orphan well cost is to them. It's not really a direct cost to us as rurals. We have other costs that, the lack of taxes. But the overall picture is that politically, they should be aware of the fact that there's dollars coming out of their pockets to fix that problem. And I don't know, because I believe in the RMA advocacy, I don't know how we would approach that. It's maybe something that you could take and say, how do we make them aware that that's another cost that the urbans have that they just don't even see?
Yeah, every conversation that I've been having, that's actually part of the strategy, is bringing in that the surface rights and the education requisition component. That's included in the press releases this time and is a piece of the media. So that's the part that goes to all Alberta taxpayers, not just rural municipalities. So this is an Alberta issue, not just a rural issue.
Right.
And I think those are the two things that really, give us that message.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions? None? Kate? I've actually been injured for the last couple weeks. This is one of my first days out and about, but I was just going to mention this recognition night, and then the papers came around, but it was a fire department recognition night. There's been a lot of work put into it. They didn't sell any tickets to the public this year, but I think their idea was maybe to do that in the future, possibly, but so this is just for fire departments, their families, and then council was asked to come as well, so that was pretty good. I'm currently missing an Ag Society meeting. I should be there, but and then I believe I said this last meeting, but I got a lot more feedback over this last couple weeks about roads in and around Fort Assiniboine and the ice that was on them and how fast everything was dealt with. So people were really happy about that. So, but that was all I had besides being laid up. Any questions? Okay, if there's none, Councillor Kuchen?
Yeah, I'll move that we accept the councillors' reports as questions as information.
Any questions on that? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Don't see John, can't hear him, but it's carried anyways. We'll move down to the CAO report.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's amazing the amount of work you put in 2 weeks when you start writing it down. So, last week I was at that SMR conference with Councillor Dean and some of our economic development committee members. It went really well and learned a bunch and didn't understand a whole lot of the technical aspects of it because I'm not a nuclear physicist. But other than that, just so you're aware, we're looking at road ban starting March 19th at 8 a.m. So I've been working with Steve to help get that all rolled out. You'll be hearing, if you haven't already, the radio ads and the social media posts. Participated in the first little bit of a ASB meeting this week. Working with corporate services just to get some final budget tweaks, so you'll have it there in April. So we're good to go. Everything's looking really good from that point of view. Still trying weekly, at least once a week, to go to the fort and work out of there. Ideally 2 days a week for just me personally, but at the minimum I'm going once a week and having some good conversations with the staff over there when I'm there as well. So it's good that way, I'm thinking. Doing some policy updates. We made some health and safety changes. Nothing major. Just taking a little bit more ownership at the management level on some health and safety to prioritize it just a little bit better. We're deep into the process of the census project. We're looking for a rollout of end of April, early May. But we're doing all the back-end research, getting the job ads ready and stuff like that. But census will happen this year, and we're looking at end of April, early May. Been working on the Fort Assiniboine digital sign as well. We got some quotes from the local community. They were 100% American, and so I've reached out to some more local Edmonton, Calgary areas with that quote, with those numbers, just to see if we can get something a little bit more local, but also a little bit more competitive when you look at the dollar differentials between us and there. So that's underway as well. And then just also Councillor Burrows had some concerns, and I believe someone else did too, on some of the slurry products that we've been having in some of the interim measures before we chip seal. So I'm working with an engineer to get a report to you. Didn't have time to get it on the agenda, but you all have it in your email there for some options. The big delay on us making a decision was without Jeff here and not having another engineer on staff, having a rough idea on what the cost implications would be if we went and put some gravel on it and then had to go and remove said gravel when we wanted to do the chip seal. I didn't want it to be an unbearable number, but at least now we have the numbers. So if it's an operational decision we need to make, we can do that, but you're better informed from a cost perspective on the different options. That's important. So that's all I have for CAO reports.
Okay, we got a question here.
Yeah, through the chair to Matthew. On the digital sign, I have a bit of a dilemma with that because of the discussion that we've had here before. And I don't disagree that that's something that we need to pursue, but I really want it to be understood that that is a service that's going to be provided in that community, that it has really no benefit to somebody in Anselmo or in Shining Bank. So under the way that we fund this, I would rather see it, if we're going to participate in this as a municipality, and do it under the principle of a local improvement tax. Because I do agree the service would be there, but I would prefer that the community bear the organizational and the responsibility for that financial part, because that, for me, procedurally, is the correct way to do it. I know I'm going to get hung for doing that, but I really don't care, because it sets a precedent of how we finance wants.
If I may, just a couple points. just in clarity to that, the motion on the books is that it's a $10,000 cost for the 2026 budget. You haven't seen surplus numbers. That being said, the numbers we're getting are in that $10,000 number. So if I can get the quotes and stuff beforehand, I potentially will provide it to the 2025. The local group asked to speak at a council meeting. I declined their invitation. I said, this item's been discussed from council. There's a direction on it. You don't need to speak. They didn't like that, which is fine. My only caution about starting to pick and choose wants versus needs, and particularly when it comes to special improvements, you're then going to have the exact same argument from someone in that community when you're looking at a grant fund to do something in the town of Whitecourt. And I would just recommend you have a bigger high level, we're all one county and we should all bear the benefits and the downsides to that as a whole, rather than starting to pick between one side to the other. So I would caution against that, but it's entirely within the prerogative of council to do local improvements if you deem it necessary.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the quotes come. Councilor Pastor.
Yeah, I have a problem with that sign too, because Blue Ridge has a digital sign. I think they got it on a grant from the county, but the community league is responsible for all repairs and anything on the sign. So, I just don't see why we're on the hook for the one on Fort St. White.
That's fair. I think, just in our last council package, there is a deal with the school that Woodlands County signed to maintain it. I think that is maybe where the hangup is, but I'm not 100% sure. So, we'd be interested to see what the quotes are, and we can kind of go from there, I think. Any other questions to the CAO report? Okay, seeing none, I'd accept a motion. Councilor Prestridge.
I'll make a motion that council accept the CAO report as information.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Seeing none, we'll call a question. All in favor? That's carried. And then we just have one item in closed session. So get a motion to go into closed session under point 17.
It'll just be me in here.
I'll make a motion that council move into closed session, discuss a FOIP 17 matter
Okay, any
at
questions?
6:23 p.m.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Opposed? 5-minute break.
That's carried. Yeah, we'll go into closed session. We'll take.